Welcome back. We're now taking you to a very important story for Tamil Nadu. The Supreme Court will shortly deliver a verdict in a plea filed by O. Pannirselvam against the Madras High Court's order that had restored the former Chief Minister E. Palaniswamy or EPS as the AIADMK's single leader. There is on one side, as we just told you, OPS, and on the other side, EPS. Their power struggles we've been documenting over the last few years. Now, the bench will pronounce this verdict in a batch of cross petitions concerning amendments made to the party bylaws during the July 11th, 2022 General Council meeting. Palaniswamy was elected as the AIADMK's interim General Secretary in that General Council meeting. This was after the High Court had rejected a plea that was made by OPS to stay the conduct of the meeting. This had been a very dramatic development that had taken place. We'd seen some protests by those who follow OPS. Now, the court had then observed that it cannot interfere into the matters of a political party. The amendments made in the bylaws then had led to the abolishment of the post of party coordinator. This is the post that was occupied by OPS. It's a bit of a confusing story. So let's go over to my colleague Purnima right now to bring you context. Purnima, good morning. Thank you for joining our audiences. Purnima, if you could lay the groundwork for our audiences before we take a deeper dive into this story with guests, can you tell us what's taken place over the last year with OPS on one side and EPS on the other, please?
Absolutely. Things have only worsened between the two camps, while O. Pannirselvam has always reiterated that the dual leadership formula should continue. Edappadi Palaniswamy wants to establish himself as the sole leader of the ADMK, and the writ started months ago when Edappadi and his camp started reiterating or pitching for Edappadi Palaniswamy as the interim General Secretary, while O. Pannirselvam says that Jayalalitha should be the only permanent General Secretary and that the dual leadership should continue, and also accused Edappadi of being a dictator. But here we are at the ADMK office today. It's a do-or-die situation for O. Pannirselvam, who's challenged the Madras High Court verdict that came in favor of EPS. Whether EPS will be the interim General Secretary or whether that General Council meeting stands null and void will be pronounced by the Supreme Court shortly. But here at the ADMK office, celebrations begin. What is famous in Tamil Nadu is the Milk Abhishekam. You can see Milk Abhishekam now being performed on Edappadi Palaniswamy's image here. As the Supreme Court is all set to pronounce its order, you can see celebrations have already begun at the ADMK office.
Okay, I just want to ask you, Purnima, last year when these decisions had come in from the Madras High Court, we'd asked you what the division was in supporters. And I remember at that point you said that a large amount of the AIADMK largely sides with the EPS now. 1 year later, is that the power division? Does that division in popularity remain? Can you tell us?
So far, Edappadi Palaniswamy has enjoyed the majority support of the party cadre and the senior leaders, while O. Pannirselvam has very few loyalists by his side, and which is why you can see that here the Edappadi camp is confident that the Supreme Court verdict will be in their favor, because more than 95% of the party cadre, the General Council members, are in support of Edappadi. So it's very easy for Edappadi to become the sole leader of the party because O. Pannirselvam lacks support, which is why we can see O. Pannirselvam does not still enjoy the majority support. Most of the loyalists from the OPS camp have jumped ship to the EPS camp. Therefore, you can see at the ADMK party office, Edappadi's camp is in fact celebrating ahead of the judgment, and we'll have to wait and see whether it is going to be in favor of
It's a big win. It is Purnima, we're getting this in for our audiences. It's a big win for EPS. Edappadi Palaniswamy, former Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. The Supreme Court, it seems, is pronouncing in his favor. I'll wait for a reporter to join us and bring us more details. But big announcement coming in. We've upheld the orders of the division bench of the High Court. This is what the Supreme Court has to say. I just wanted to give my colleague Purnima a second also to update herself. She's been bringing us live reports through the day. Purnima, the judgment pronounced by a division bench of the Supreme Court. What details can you bring us?
Well, in fact, if you look at it, it's and the Supreme Court judgment has come out in favor of Edapadi Palanisamy. A huge victory for Edapadi Palanisamy, who is now the interim General Secretary of the AIADMK. And what the Supreme Court judgment also signifies is that it is probably an end game for O Pannirselvam. Remember, O Pannirselvam has time and again challenged the General Council meeting that in fact was in favor of Edapadi Palanisamy. The resolutions passed at the General Council meeting named Edapadi as the interim General Secretary, and O Pannirselvam challenged that before the Supreme Court. Now with the Supreme Court coming out in favor of Edapadi Palanisamy, it looks like an end game for O Pannirselvam.
Purnima, thank you. Purnima, if you could tell us more about the judgment itself that's come in from the Supreme Court, with them declaring that, you know, he is now undisputedly the interim General Secretary. What else does that mean? Can you tell us more about what O Pannirselvam had said when he was petitioning the Supreme Court, and what this judgment will mean for him too, apart from the fact, obviously, that this is possibly end game for him?
Well, if you look at
fireworks going off right now in celebrations. Those are visuals that we're bringing you from EPS's offices. These are outside the AIADMK offices. Edapadi K. Palaniswamy, with the Supreme Court ruling very much in his favor. The EPS camp celebrating. A few minutes ago we told you celebrations had already very much started there. My colleague Purnima pointing out that milk is usually poured in celebrations. Milk is being poured in cutouts of EPS, as you just saw in those visuals. Now, we have two guests with us. We'll also keep connecting with our reporters to understand more about what the Supreme Court had to say. We have S. Muralidharan, he's a political analyst, and Prakash M. Swamy, a senior journalist. Both of them are with us this morning. Let's go over to S. Muralidharan first. Good morning, sir. Thank you so much for joining us here on CNN News 18. So the Supreme Court coming out with this judgment. We'll take our audiences in more depth into the judgment in just a second. But I want to ask you first, sir. We knew today was do or die for OPS, O Pannirselvam. What does this mean for him effectively?
I mean, probably, you know, a governor post by BJP in the northeastern state. That's in lighter vein. But I think it was expected because the entire party, at least 95% of the party cadre, are with EPS, and this was expected. And I'm sure even the Supreme Court would have realized that. And that could be the reason why this order is in their favor. And EPS has to, he has really emerged as a tall leader among these two. And so that, I mean, this didn't come as a shocker to us because this was expected.
All right, so just stay with us for a second. I'll now go over to S. Muralidharan to understand. Sir, I want to understand from you. We've just talked about what this could potentially mean for OPS, but I want to ask you, sir, what does this mean in your estimation for Tamil Nadu? In the last few months, in fact, the last few years, we've watched the BJP really slip in as the key opposition in the state in some ways. Do we think the AIADMK now, under the consolidated leadership of EPS, can reverse that?
Well, see, it's only the question of time, you know, like it's always, you know, there was a certain amount of ambiguity, like, you know, what will happen to the two-leaf symbol. So that was a, you know, that was a huge criteria because that's the symbol is very important to the party, and all the victories so far, it's with that symbol. So that was definitely an important aspect of the whole thing. But other than that, I think BJP, you know, trying to become the, prime opposition, they're still a 3% vote share party. You know, they can aspire and they can have ambitions to become the opposition party or the ruling party in Tamil Nadu. There's nothing wrong in it. But all those optics so far, that was, ADMK was aware of all that because ADMK and DMK are the people, I mean, it's always been ADMK and DMK. It's almost close to 30% vote share. So, I mean, that, except for the small disturbance from OPS side, other than that, I think the party has done pretty well. I mean, even in the last couple of years of EPS rule, he has proved to the people of Tamil Nadu that he's definitely a great leader. And if you really compare with the current scenario in Tamil Nadu, with the Stalin government, with the law and order mess and all sorts of things which is happening, we also saw a Jawan being killed, a few weeks ago. So that's the kind of law and order situation. People really, appreciate and understand what EPS has done to the state,
Wow.
and he is definitely, looked upon as the alternative to TMK. So
Okay.
it's right now. I mean, once the two symbol, the two leaf symbol is also within his bag, I think so it's going to be an interesting contest in 2024 and 2026.
Right. Sir, thank you for bringing us that context. Just stay with us. And Mr. Sami, just also stay with us, please. I'll come to you in a second. Let's go very quickly to my colleague, our legal correspondent, Ananya Bhatnagar. He's been bringing us these details. Ananya, we shared with our audiences the big headline, the Supreme Court ruling in the EPS's favor. But now take us into detail into what the Supreme Court had to say, please.
Well, the Supreme Court has very, very clearly and categorically stated that all the appeals that have been filed by the O. Pannirselvam or the OPS camp, in fact, this whole particular case has now been dismissed. The September 2 order of the Madras High Court's division bench, which had upheld the General Council meeting that was held in July last year, to be true and to be fine. And in fact, now the EPS is the single leader of the AIADMK is what, in fact, the Supreme Court has ruled. This was the bench headed by Justice Dinesh Maheshwari and Justice Rishikesh Roy, which has actually, after dealing with the matter for more than months, have now delivered its verdict and clearly stated that EPS remains to be the single leader of this particular political party. And the decisions that were taken in that July 11 General Council meeting are true and have been upheld by the Supreme Court of India.
Okay, can you tell us what this is going to mean for both camps effectively, Ananya, please?
Well, definitely, Toya, this is a big blow to the OPS camp, and a big win, for the, in fact, the Edappadi Palaniswamy's camp. Because remember that the whole fight had erupted and started when, in fact, Jayalalitha had died, and in fact, there was the party had gone into two-factor leadership. The two factions were actually were the conveners of that particular political party. And what had happened was it was being run by a general council. But later, on July 11 this year, last year, in fact, EPS had called in a GC, that is a General Council meeting, where a resolution was passed that he would remain the single leader of that particular political party. And the OPS camp leaders were actually ousted by, this particular General Council meeting. And that had particularly come first before the Madras High Court and then to the Supreme Court, and now the Supreme Court too, putting its stamp clearly on that particular decision of the General Council and clearly saying that the decisions taken in the General Council were particularly lawful and there was no basis for them to be challenged. All the appeals filed by the OPS camp have now been dismissed by the topmost court of the country, and EPS remains the single leader.
And Ananya, does this leave any legal options for OPS?
Well, certainly, since it's a two-judges bench order of the Supreme Court, it can be challenged in a larger bench. A revision petition can be filed in this particular regard. However, now, since it's a detailed order, it's a very, very detailed order and a well-reasoned order by, in fact, the two-judges bench at the topmost court of the country, there remains to be a little hope for the OPS camp, but definitely we might see that the OPS camp would come up and would actually, come up before the topmost court of the country and seek a revision of this particular order or actually file an appeal against this particular order of the Supreme Court.
Ananya, thank you for those details. Edappadi Palaniswamy consolidating his hold over the AIADMK. Can he get the house in order over the next few years before the next assembly elections? There's quite a bit of time for Tamil Nadu. It's expected on or before 2026. That's all that we have for you on the show this morning. Very, very exciting developments taking place down south. Thank you so much for watching the Breaking News Show right here on CNN News 18.
inside that standing committee, so that it has a perfect hold on the decisions that are being taken by the standing committee. But yes, this is the impasse that they have stuck upon. Now the House has been adjourned yet again. In the next half an hour, the House will convene yet again. But yes, it is very, very unlikely that we are going to see peace return and the election happen.